What's happening, people? I hope you're all well. Beautiful day in England. Not often I say that. Not often I say that. It is a beautiful day in England. Anyway, the opinion I'm about to give is the opinion from a complete stranger online. Please be responsible when competing in the markets. Daniel Dubois is defending his IBF title against Anthony Joshua. I'm gonna try and keep this video not too long because it's hot. I've got things to do, as we all do. So let me just take some time out of my day to do this. So Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois are going to be getting it on. Anthony Joshua is the betting favorite to beat Daniel Dubois, and understandably so. Anthony Joshua has beaten the Bella people. Anthony Joshua has not quit outright in a fight. People question whether he quit against Andy Ruiz, and only he knows that for certain. Only he knows. But that's subjective, that's subjective. He didn't exactly get up off the floor and pump his chest and say, let's go, let's go, let's go, like Sean Porter did when he was dropped against, who dropped him? Sean Porter was dropped against Errol Spence, and he got up and was calling Errol Spence on. Anthony Joshua didn't exactly do that, but he didn't get up and say no more. Only he knows. But what I do know is that you gotta watch where you step in the grass, man. Dog walking and all that. So what I do know is Daniel Dubois went down against Joe Joyce and did not get up until 10. And we all know what that means. Daniel Dubois was dropped by a jab by Alexander Usyk, didn't get up. It goes to 10 and he's up. Again, you know what that means. Both time jabs. Daniel Dubois has quit in 2 fights for 2 jabs. I'm not calling him a coward, and you want to know why? Because I've had a couple boxing fights, right? Well, more than a couple. I've had some bouts, and I know what goes on in there. And let me tell you something. I don't fight on the same level as Daniel Dubois. I'm not in there defending my IBF World Championship. But I do know, even with fighting the level I fight at, boxing's hard. You can get hit by someone and you can literally be like, what on earth was that? Like you only people who've had bouts know what this is, what the game's about. And I'm not the one taking punches from 220 to 250 pound men. So I'm not calling anyone a coward here. I'm just saying factually Daniel Dubois did quit, whether you like it or not. So at the end of the day, I have to factor that in when I'm looking at who I think is going to win the fight. But what I will say is this: Daniel Dubois has gone on to prove himself, because against Jarrell Miller's the type of fighter, I know he's no longer, he was popped and since then hasn't looked the same, but Jarrell Miller's got that style where if you haven't got the bit between your teeth, he will drown you. He will walk you down. He will test your heart. And Daniel Dubois did look at times like he wanted out, body language wise, but he stuck in there and got the stoppage. That did him great for his confidence. Now for me, Hrgović didn't quite put him through it. Hrgović for me didn't test the heart. I'm not 100% sold on Daniel Dubois no longer being a guy who's going to quit in a hard fight. Because for me, he needs to show it one more time. He showed it against Jarrell Miller, cool. But I need to see it one more time. I need to see him being in a situation where many would look for a way out and he doesn't look for a way out. And then I'll say, cool, Daniel Dubois is not a guy who will quit in a hard fight. So when I look at these two, I see people going all out for Anthony Joshua, and I can see why. But Anthony Joshua is 30-something years old, mid-30s. Now, when fighters start to decline, we don't know when that's going to be. Everyone's different. But what I do know is, as the older a guy gets, the more likely it is to be the case. At some point, Anthony Joshua is going to start showing signs of decline. As we all do, we're all human. Daniel Dubois is in his mid-20s. So don't underestimate youth. Because when you're young, and I know this, when I was 25, I was springy. You can have all the technical skill you like, but sometimes youth wins the day. You know, you've got that fast twitch muscle fibers, your brain connection, you know, when you command your brain to do something, and then when your brain actually does it, there's less delay. And don't underestimate the youth. Don't underestimate it. People are picking Anthony Joshua almost like it's a foregone conclusion, or it's heavily in favor of him. I see this fight as in the 60 to 55% zone for Anthony Joshua. I am thinking he's the favorite here, but not in the way everyone else is. Because when I look at boxing, I see styles make fights, the old adage in boxing. And I see Daniel Dubois with an intuitive and talented jab. Daniel Dubois has a hard ramrod jab. And no disrespect to Daniel Dubois, I don't think he's the brightest guy in the world. That jab is natural. You see, when guys aren't thinking, you see intelligent people think a lot. But when you're not intelligent, you have to rely on your instincts. He instinctually has a good jab. Again, I'm not calling him stupid, I'm just saying I don't think he's the most intelligent. And he instinctually has a good jab. If someone can get in his ear and tell him, everyone's expecting this to be a shootout. Everyone's expecting this to be a shootout. If someone gets in Daniel Dubois' ear enough times and almost programs him to just make it a battle of the jabs, he could cause Anthony Joshua hell. Who remembers Frank Bruno versus Lennox Lewis? Everyone picking Lennox Lewis to win. And he did win, but he was losing. You can box with a boxer. Daniel Dubois, if he can get on his jab, and there's many similarities between Dubois and Bruno. If Daniel Dubois can get on his jab, double jab, triple jab, hold, disguise the right hand behind a double jab, he can have some real success in this fight. Anthony Joshua is more versatile, more strings to his bow. But what Daniel Dubois does, he does it well. And I think Daniel Dubois has more energy than Anthony Joshua. Saying that though, I think Anthony Joshua has the power to not even necessarily drop Daniel Dubois, although he does. Don't get me wrong, he has the power to drop and knock out Daniel Dubois, but he has the power also to discourage Daniel Dubois, in my opinion. You're looking at Daniel Dubois, the tape of him being discouraged by fighters. And you just see Anthony Joshua with the power. He hits Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois doesn't go down. Daniel Dubois doesn't even get stung, doesn't even get stunned. But he has a look on his face of, do I fancy it tonight? And Anthony Joshua is a good counterpuncher, and Anthony Joshua can fight on the inside. I think Daniel Dubois is probably physically stronger. So Daniel Dubois needs to wrap up Anthony Joshua on the inside, lest he gets hit with a head snapping uppercut. But when I look at the fight, I see it as, as gamblers, we don't care about all the ins and outs that doesn't involve us making a profit. The question for me is, does this fight go the distance? I think someone needs to get in Daniel Dubois' ear and tell him to make it a jabbing fight, because he could win that. I know Anthony Joshua's taller, but timing and power of the jab can beat that. I remember Kell Brook versus Terence Crawford. I know Kell Brook lost, but for as long as it lasted, Terence Crawford has a huge reach for his height. And Kell Brook was out jabbing him. It can happen. Timing. So, when I look at this, I think someone needs to get in Dubois' ear and tell him, forget what everyone's saying about shootout, make it a battle of the jabs. But when I look at the fight, do I think that's going to happen? My money's on that not happening. My money is on this fight. Maybe there'll be some jabs, but I don't think Daniel Dubois is going to fight the fight I think he should fight. And I think this fight will turn into a shootout at times, and I think it will turn into a shootout enough for it not to go the distance. So, as gamblers, I'm suggesting that we simply place a bet on this fight to not go the distance. But please be aware that the risk you take is if this fight goes to the 12th, 12 completed rounds, we lose all our money. And as for who I think is going to win the fight, it doesn't really matter, because what I'm talking about here is generating profit. Anyway, let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video. If you appreciate my work and want to leave a donation, there's a link for that in the description. With that, enjoy the rest of your day. See you on the next one.